Well, of course, not every country is like the United States. We have our own particular problems, and so we address the Startup Act to attack certain barriers to more effective and more numerous entrepreneurial activity. So not everything that we would recommend for the U.S. may be applicable to other countries, but I suspect that of the four things that we did recommend for the United States, namely more immigration of high-skilled workers, reducing the barriers for going public and raising money, accelerating the transfer of technology out of universities into the marketplace, and also reducing regulatory burden. I would think that each of these apply with equal force to the European Union countries in general. I can't say as much about emerging market economies because you typically in emerging markets you don't have as much of an infrastructure of the state developed to actually foster productive economic activity, because in many emerging markets the state either has imperfect rules or has very heavy state involvement in the economy. And so what you need first and foremost in emerging markets is to have the state reduce its role in the economy to allow the private sector to take its place. But back to the European Union, I would think the most important thing that Europe needs that is not true in the United States is much more flexible labor markets. I know this is a politically very difficult and very controversial subject in Europe and can be the cause of deep unrest. But ultimately, you cannot have resources in an economy move from older industries to newer industries unless you allow labor to move to those newer firms. And right now, restrictive labor laws or restrictive practices that have been embedded in union contracts make it difficult for firms to fire people or to let them go, or make it difficult for people to voluntarily want to leave because they're afraid of losing a safety net when they leave their existing firms. And one of the characteristics of the U.S. economy, which has made it strong historically, is that we have fairly flexible, if not reasonably flexible, labor markets where people move a lot. They don't move as much as they used to, but at least in the United States, if you start a firm, you can relatively easily get the workers that you need. That is not as true in Europe. And so if I were designing a startup act for Europe, I would put a wider or broader labor market flexibility at the top of my list.